my example um, would be in John 15:12 and 13. So this is my commandment, that ye love one another as I have loved you. Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends.
I think one of the things, when this particular topic, we know, like the uh-oh, it's it love is a fruit of the spirit. Um, Actually named as the first fruit of the spirit, and um everything revolves around literally that this, this love. The whole world, the whole universe, everything that we know or that we can't understand, even we can't understand or that we don't know, revolves around love. And in fact, if we go back to John 3:16, we know that's the foundation for our relationship with the Lord. Is for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever should believe in him would not perish but have everlasting life. So everything centers around love. We hear the other scripture where it says, greater love have this, and one will lay down his life for his brother. What was the scripture? What was that scripture again, Justin?
John 15:12, 13.
Yeah, yeah. It says, greater love have no man than this, than a man lay down his life for his friends. Now, if you look at that in context, Jesus really is, he reiterating John 3:16. Only he's speaking from a human standpoint because he here in the earth. But you go back to John 3:16, it says, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. God. So when Jack, when you saying and we saying that love is an action, it's not just a feeling, that shows it. It's action behind it. It begins with actions, not just our mouths, because God introduced his love to us in his giving, and giving something that we weren't worthy even after we transgressed it.
I do like how you talked about um, John 3:16, because too, I think like he's kind of putting that scripture 15:12 and 13 about laying his life down. I mean, he's also in that scripture foreshadowing his crucifixion too.
Right.
And so when you talk about like love being an act as well, an action, things like that, I mean, that couldn't have I mean, he did that in spite of being man, and nobody wants to do something like that, and you know what I mean, like you're just, it's not going to be a good feeling, and to carry that out, and just, I think it speaks volumes. I've always kind of seen the 12:13 as like a foreshadowing, but I guess I've never really seen that. 3:16 is also prefacing that, and then it's finally carried out in his crucifixion. So
Right. And you think about this, Justin. You say nobody, like, think about this. It took love from within Jesus to allow his creation to do with them what they wanted to do, knowing he had the power to not even allow it to happen.
yeah, prevent it.
Man, that right there, and that's what Jesus speaking to. He say, greater love has no man than one would lay down his life.
Yeah.
Just simply, he laid it down, but he had the power to stop it, prevent it, and none of that, all that in between. But he just said, okay, I come here for this. That's love. It's an action, but it's love.
It's definitely, I mean, he just, we could probably go through and get several examples, but I mean, if we're talking about love and Jesus being a man, and what it should look like within like biblical masculinity, I mean, we have to talk about the first thing he did on the cross was forgive people. That wasn't it the first?
Yep.
Forgive them, they know not what they do. And
Yes,
that was
yet.
one of the final, that was the first of the final 7 things Jesus said while he was on the cross. And that one kind of chokes me up a little bit. As I literally am choking.
Let's look at Luke 23 and 34.
So forgive them what they do.
Yeah, so the first thing he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Yeah, Luke 23:34.
Yeah, he says that.
34, okay.
But yeah, I you know, one of the things that you just have to talk about is, and I have a hard time talking about this one. I mean, just imagine what he had already went through, and what he was going through to, in the midst of all that. I mean, we can barely, as humans in our flesh, like, hear something we don't want to hear, and our response be forgive him, let alone everything that he had just went through up to this point. Like, to me, that's just such a deep love for what he was doing, and for the people that were doing it to him. I mean, you talked about love covering a multitude of sins. I mean, he's praying, he's stopping in the middle of this, and the first thing he does is pray to the Father to forgive them. I mean, it's just, to me, it's like one of the most amazing things.
Well, that's because we're not him and he is God. You know what I mean? So,
but he was man too at this point, right? So that's what I'm saying about this, is like, this is Jesus fully man in this moment.
Well, don't forget
to be way
even before that, in the Garden of Gethsemane, he was praying to his Father to, you know, if this cup shall pass, then remove it from me, but not my will, but your will be done.
And I think it stresses in the Bible so much about forgiveness. I think God knows it does more for, you know, our hearts, and keeping the bad out of them than anything. You know what I mean? And I think that kind of shines light to other people in that sense, to where, you know, if they're seeing people be that way and being forgiving and loving and caring and kind, and to me, that's infectious, and people, you know, tend to pick up on that kind of a thing. I kind of have a good example. I mean, I just think, until somebody's been kind to you when you needed it and they didn't need to be, and you kind of didn't deserve it, is you kind of know what that effect has. So it can make it easier to turn around and give that out when it's your turn.